Good morning, children. Welcome once again to e-learning class. We're going to look at the topic simplification of numbers. In the last or the previous classes, we have learned about fractions, how to change from improper fraction to mixed numbers, and also to change from mixed number to improper fraction. So we're going to continue from there. In simplification of number, it means that the number is too big and we're going to reduce it. Just as the name implies, simplify means to make it small, to make it simple for anybody to understand. So it has to do with, in this case, it has to do with the multiplication and division of fractions. So the example 1 says, simplify 2 whole number times 1/3. So we're going to simplify it. In this case, this is a whole number. So first of all, we need to change it to fraction. And how do we change it to fraction? Is to divide it by 1. 2 divided by 1 is still the same thing as 2, so it doesn't change anything. So as it is now, it has become fraction and we have 1/3. So in multiplication of fraction, we normally multiply the numerator by the numerator and the denominator by the denominator. So in this case, we have 2 times 1, which is 2, all over 1 times 3, which is 3. So that this is, you can see that this number now is simplified as compared to the initial question that was given. So this is the answer to this example 1. Let's quickly look at example 2. You need to understand as we have started, because as we go further, it's going to become a little complex. So as we start, we have just started, you need to pay more attention. Let's look at example 2. Here we have both numbers are fractions, so there's no need to divide it by 1. All what we need to do is either you multiply 3 by 4 and 4 by 9, or you look at it, the number you can reduce it. Last time I told you something about reduction to its lowest 10. So when see this number can divide itself, you can reduce it before you multiply. So in this case, we want to reduce it. 4 divided itself 1 and goes here 1. 3 divide itself 1 and 3 divide 9 3 times. So you can see that I've reduced it. I can now multiply it. 1 times 1 give me 1 all over 1 times 3, which is what? 3. So this is the answer to example 2. Let's quickly look at example 3. In this case, this number is not improper. So we need to change it to improper fraction. I told you last time how to change from mixed number to improper fraction. So here we're going to change it now. This is how to change. You multiply this by this, multiply the denominator by the whole number, and add it to the numerator. So that is the rule that you must follow. Multiply the denominator by the whole number and add it to the numerator. So 9 times 1 is going to give us 9 plus 1 is going to give us 10 all over 9. You do the same thing with this. 5 times 1 is 5 plus 1. You have 6 over 5. Then times 2 times 2 is 4 plus 1. I have 5 over 2. Now in this case, sorry, you can see that the numbers can divide itself. You look at those numbers that can easily divide itself. We look at here, 5 can divide 5, and 2 can divide 6 3 times. You also see that 3 can divide 9 3 times. So you must reduce it till there is no other further reduction. Then when you have finished, you just do what? You multiply all the numerators by the numerator and the denominators. So we're going to multiply now. 3 times 1 is 10 times 1 is 10 times 1 is 10 all over 3 times 1 is 3 times 1 again is what? 3. So in this case, you can't leave your answer this way because this is improper. The numerator is bigger than the denominator. So we further have to reduce it. We need to change it to what? To improper, to proper fraction. So how do we change it? You divide 10 by 3. 10 divided by 3 is going to give us 3 remainder 1. The one that remains will be represented as the numerator all over the denominator. So you want to confirm whether it is correct. You now multiply this plus you're going to have this. 3 times 3 is 9 plus 1 is 10 over 3. So you can see that is how to simplify it. This number is already simplified. So that is the answer to example 3. Okay, so let's proceed to example 4. Example 4 says simplify two whole number 2 over 9 divided by 2 over 3 and divided by one whole number 1 over 2. You can see that indeed the one that we did before, they were all multiplication. So in division of fractions, the rule says that you first of all convert it to multiplication before you reduce. So the first thing here we're going to do is to change all these numbers that are mixed number to what? To improper fraction. Then when we finish that, we now change the sign from division to multiplication. So let's do the first step. 9 times 2 is 18. 18 plus 2 is 20 all over 9. Divided by, this one is already in order, so you don't need to change that. Divided by 2 times 1 is 2 plus 1 is 3 over 2. So the next step now, having done this, is to change the sign. And the rule is that when you change the sign, the number in front of the sign must change. That is, the denominator will turn to become the numerator, and the numerator will become the denominator. This is what I'm saying. 20 over 9. Maybe when you change the sign, I'm going to change the sign now to multiplication. When I do that, this one will go up, while this one will come down. So this will now becomes 3 over 2. I do the same thing here. This one goes up, and the one up will come down, and we have 2 over 3. So please take note of this particular point. Immediately when you want to change this sign to multiplication, you must change the number that is in front of the sign. The numerator will become the denominator, while the denominator becomes the numerator. Having done that, you now go for reduction. Reduce them to the lowest terms. So we're going to look at it. 2 can reduce, 2 cancel 2, 3 cancel 3. So what is remaining now is just, if you multiply 20 times 1 is going to give us 20 all over. 9 times 1 is going to give us 9. As I said in example 3, this is improper. This is an improper fraction. You don't leave your answer this way. So what you do is to reduce it to the mixed number. So what you do is 20 divided by 9 is going to give you 2. Then what will be the remainder will form your numerator. So 20 divided by 9 is 2. Remainder 2 all over 9. So this is the answer to example 4. I believe that is clear. Alright, let's look at the example 5. Example 5 is very simple. We can compare example 5 with the example 1, but the only difference is that this one has division sign, while example 1 has multiplication sign. So you can remember what I told you, that when you see a whole number, for you to make it a fraction, you divide it by 1. So please take note of that. So this becomes 3 over 4 divided by 5 over 1. So the both sides now are in a fraction form. So you go further by saying 3 over 4 times, remember what I told you, this one will go up, so we have 1 over 5. So this one cannot be reduced more than this. What you do is multiply the numerator by the numerator. So we have 3 times 1, which is 3, all over 4 times 5, which is what? 20. So this answer is correct because there is nothing that can divide 3 and 20. So that is the answer to example 5. Okay, so let's look at the example 6. Example 6 says simplify 3 whole number 3 over 8 divided by 1 whole number 1 over 8. So remember what I told you, that when the number is given like this, you need to change it to improper fraction. So we have 8 times 3 is what? We have 24. 24 plus 3 is going to give us 27 over 8. Divided by 8 times 1 is 8 plus 1. We have 9 over 8. So now the next step is for us to change the sign, which is 27 over 8. Remember, when we change the sign from division to multiplication, the denominator will become the numerator. So we have 8 over 9. Now let me explain this further. You can only change from division to multiplication When a number is already in multiplication, you don't need to change it to division. So take note of that. You can only change from division to multiplication. So when it's already in multiplication, there's no need for you to change it back to division. So please take note. So now we're going to reduce it. Now you can look at the number that can divide itself, or a factor that can divide. So here 9, I'm going to use 9. I can as well use 3. But let me use 9 so that 9 goes divide itself 1. 9 divide 27 3 times. So you can see that 8 can divide itself. So what is remaining now is 3 times 1, which is 3. All over 1 times 1 is 1. And 1 over 1, 3 divided by 1 is still 3. So that is the answer to example 6. So now we're going to look at example 7. Evaluate 4 whole number 4 over 5 divided by 1 whole number 2 over 5 times 1 whole number 5 over 16. Now when you hear this grammar, evaluate, they still mean the same thing. There's no difference. So you shouldn't be confused. Whenever you see this, they can use anything to evaluate, simplify, they are still the same. So what we do here is 5 times 4 is 20. 20 plus 4 gives us 24 plus 5 divided by 5, sorry. So we have 5 times 4, 20. 20 plus 4 is 24 divided by 5. Always divided by the denominator. That is the rule. You must observe that rule. Then divided by 5 times 1 is 5 plus 2. We have 7 all over 5. Times 16 times 1 is 16. 16 plus 5 is 21 over 16. So we are done with the first step. The next step now is to change the sign. So we need to be very careful here because there are two signs. We have the division sign and we have the multiplication sign. Remember, I told you when you see multiplication, you don't do anything about it. The only one you have to change is the division sign. And take note of it, you don't change the number in front of the sign. Rather, you change the number after the sign. That is the number that comes after the sign. So in this case, you don't need to change anything. It's 24 over 5 times. So the number that comes after the sign is the one you're going to change now. This one will go up while this one comes down. So we have 5 over 7 times, remember this one is multiplication, so nothing will change, it still remains the same because it is a multiplication sign. So I bring down 21 over 16. So having done that is the time that we're going to reduce it to its lowest 10. So we're going to look at numbers that can easily divide themselves. Okay, so here we have 5 can divide 5. Then here 7 can divide 21 3 times. Okay, let's look at the 16 and 24. Which factor can divide both of them without a remainder? Okay, so let me use 4. 16 divided by 4 is going to give me 4. 24 divided by 4 is what? 6. 2 can as well go. 2 here, 2 goes here, 3. So we now bring all of them out. All the numerators, you multiply them together. 3 times 1 times 3. That is 3 times 3 give us what? 9. All over. 1 times 1 times 2 gives us 2. So this number already is improper. So we need to change it to mixed number. So you divide 9 by 2. It's going to give us 4 whole number. 1 will remain. That one is the numerator all over 2. So 9 over 2, when you change it from the improper fraction, it becomes 4 whole number, 1 over 2 as the mixed number. So this is how to evaluate them. I want you to take time and go through all the examples from example 1 to example 7. Study them in detail, because if you don't study it in detail, you have some challenges in the process of solving the assignment I will send later. Please take note of all the points that I've mentioned and make sure you work in accordance to the rules I've given. If you do that, any simplification of numbers that has to do with the multiplication and division of fraction, you find it very simple. Thank you very much.